Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I am MASTURINA binti MUSTAFA. My matrix number is F2005. I am with my team members which are Nilam Sari and IRNIEDA FARISYA will be presenting the problem-based task and show the all configurations step by step.
Construct a task related to Windows Server networking features and function in an enterprise network and incorporate sustainable practice in selecting a suitable network infrastructure solution for the enterprise network with reliable security features. The domain name system (DNS) is a service that allows you to translate a host name into an IP address. Working with different protocols and network addresses is one of the inherent challenge of functioning in network system. However, most environments have switched to transmission control protocol or internet protocol (TCP or IP) as their principal networking protocol, owing to the internet's immense popularity. TCP or IP is a set of technologies, protocols and services that allow computers to communicate with one another over a broad heterogeneous network. This protocol has several advantages, including extensive support for hardware, software, and network components, as well as scalability and reliance on a standard system. TCP is in charge of duties like sequence acknowledgements. IP is responsible for a variety of tasks, including logical subnet, assignment, and routing. Next, for a DHCP server, is a network server that allocate IP addresses, default gateway, and others network information to client device on a regular basis. To reply to broadcast inquiries from clients, it uses the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol or DHCP as a common protocol. A DHCP server transmits the appropriate network setting to client so that they can communicate correctly on the network. Without it, the network administrator must manually configure each client that join the networks, which may be time consuming, particular in big networks. Each client is normally assigned a unique dynamic IP address via DHCP server, which change when the client's list for the IP address expires. Before start all the installation or configuration, we must give the IP address for IPv4 and IPv6. So first, go over to your taskbar, click on your network icon and choose network and internet setting as the picture. So next, right click the right adapter and choose properties as the picture below. And the last picture, a new windows will pop up. Assign server with host name and static IP address according to the topology. Configure TCP or IPv4 and TCP or IPv6 server. So this is step how to configure TCP or IPv4 in server. Follow the red box, then give the IP address. And this is step for TCP IPv6. The step is the same as IPv4. For client, we must assign client with host name and static IP address according to the topology. Configure TCP or IPv4 in client. Part 1. Add roles and features for DNS and configure Active Directory. So first, change computer name and go to local server. Next step, double click at computer name, change as a DC server, click change. After change, the display will appear, then you must restart your computer and click OK. After restart, the computer name has been changed. Next, select Server Manager from Start menu and then select Add Roles and Features. Click Next to continue. And then select Role-based or Features-based installation and then click button Next. For the last picture, select the server that Active Directory is going to be installed. In this case, it is the same server. So for the next step, select the Active Directory domain service, server role and DNS server role. Next, select role-based or features-based in additional features are required to add DHCP server. And then click Add Features button and next. Click Next button installation and click button Next. Click Next to confirm the installation selection and click Install. Lastly, wait until the installation finish and close the dialog box. After finish the installation, click Promote the server to a domain controller. Click on the notification in Server Manager dashboard and promote the server to a domain controller. After click Promote, choose Add a new forest and provide the root domain name, which is iet.edu. Select the forest and domain functional level from the list. It is recommended to select the highest functional level to access the recent features. For the second feature, provide the directory service restore mode DSRM password. Directory service restore mode DSRM is a special boot mode for repairing or recovering Active Directory. It is used to log on to the computer when Active Directory has failed or needs to be stored. Last feature is click button Next. So next, confirm the NetBIOS domain name IET. Then keep the path default for database, log files and the file folders. And then review and click Next. Lastly, click Install after prerequisite check is passed successfully. So the two pictures of in this slide. This first picture is confirm the Active Directory domain service installation in Server Manager. For the second picture, confirm the DNS installation in the Server Manager. So next, click Tools, then click on Active Directory, Users and Computers. Next, right click on iet.edu, click New, then click Organizational Unit, then create 3 new organizational unit. After create a new organization unit, name as academic and then click OK. Right click on iet.edu, click New and then click Organizational Unit. And then name as BUSA, click OK. For the same step, right click on iet.edu, click New and then click Organizational Unit. And then next step, name as admin and then click OK. So now already have 3 new organizational unit that has been created. So next, right click on iet.edu, click New and then click Users. For the second picture, name of the user under group academic, academic Nilam Sari. Then click button next. So set your password. For example, password as 12345 for user account. And then user academic Nilam Sari has been successfully updated. And then do the same things for 3 times. Right click on iet.edu, click new and then click users, and then name of the user under group besar _masturina, then click next buttons. And then set password, for example password at 12345 for user account, and then user has successfully updated. So for the last organizational unit, right click on iet.edu, click new, then click user, then name of the user under group admin, give the name admin IRNIEDA, then click button next. So then set password like password at 12345 for user account. After finish setup, user admin IRNIEDA has successfully updated. So next, right click on iet.edu, click new, then click computer. After that, under group academic, name as computer 1 and computer 2 at different computer, and then click button OK. Computers under group academic successfully updated. Part 2. Configure new zone under forward lookup zone. So first step, click tools and then select DNS. Second picture, choose forward lookup zone folder, right click on either and select new zone.
After that, click next on the welcome screen. Select primary zone as the type of zone you want to create, and then click next to proceed to the next screen. Next, active directory on the previous step. Step to allow replication to all DNS server running on domain controllers in the domain iet.edu. Click next to continue. In the zone name, we name it academic.iet.edu, and then click next to continue.
After that, choose to do not allow dynamic updates, which is the recommended option for Active Directory. Click next to continue to the next screen. After that, click finish to finally create the zone. So the last picture is the successfully created the zone academic.iet.edu. So for the part 3, create new host A and mail exchanger. So first, right click on iet.edu and then click new host A or AAAA, have a 4A, and then insert name and IP address, and then click add host. Lastly, the host record was successfully created. Right click on iet.edu, then click new mail exchanger MX, and then insert host name FQDN and browse FQDN of mail server, and then click OK. Now host A record and mail record has been created. So next explanation and step, I will pass with my team members, and thank you very much.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Farizan Bin Salleh. I will continue task 1 part 4, create a reverse lookup zone. On reverse lookup zone, right click and do same as a forward lookup. Click next on the welcome screen, choose a primary zone and click next. Next, choose to all DNS server running on daemon control in this domain iet.edu. Click Next. Choose IPv4 reverse lookup zone. Click Next. Insert network ID 20.20.1.1. Click button Next. Click Allow. Only secure dynamic update, then click Next. Next, click Finish and already appear. Next, on reverse lookup, right click on 1.20.20.in/adr.arp and click New Pointer. Next, click a browser, then click what appear until it appears same as below and then click OK. Now, the pointer already created. Next, locate the server in the list DCR server, then right click and choose as properties. Navigation to the forward tab. Next, click the edit button to add DNS server to the list. Enter the IP address of DNS server to which you would like forward request 13.13.1.1 and click OK. Here is an overview of DNS server result and some public DNS server you can use. Part 5. Verify DNS functionality. If Windows DNS server is still not responding, you may need to deliver a little feature to figure out what the problem of misconfiguration or causing the problem. You may need to use NS lookup window utility to do so any commonly used for the NS progress by hackers. NS lookup is used by many software applications, including Solar Wine Remote Monitor and Management, and you may use NS lookup DNS troubleshooting instruction to diagnose particular internal or external issue. One of the first DNS diagnosis was NS lookup is come in both interaction and non-interactive version. It is a typical more beneficial in interaction mode for our needs. It's more typical use to verify IP address as well as the NS server you using enter the command prompt and type NS lookup followed by the domain to locate host IP address. This mostly like going the return to local server, set the query type NS lookup and input the domain name, discover the authoritative server. Next, task 2, set up Windows Server 2019 with DHCP feature. Part 7, perform DHCP server configuration. Okay, first run server manager and click add role and feature and click next button. Next, select a role-based or feature-based installation. Select a server from the server pool. Next, check a box DHCP server, additional feature and require to add DHCP server. Click add feature box and next, click the next button. Next, click next button on page feature and click next button on page DSC server and click install button. After finishing installation, click close end button. Next, in the server manager dashboard, you will see a yellow notification at the top left. Click on it now. Click on complete DHCP configuration. Next, click next button. If your server is standalone server, select escape at authorization and click commit button. If your server is in a AD domain, so a current user is set automatically for authorization, but if you don't like to change it, set as user for AD authorization and click commit button. Next, click close button and continue another part. I will pass to Nilam Sari.
Assalamualaikum and hi for the station this now. My name is Nilam Sari binti Hasan Basri. My matrix number is F2009. I will present about part 8, the create multiple scope in the DHCP. So I will continue this presentation. Before a DHCP server can provide the clients with the IP address, the server must be configured with a scope. A scope is a range of the IP address that can be leased to DHCP clients on a given subnet. For the example, if you have a multiple subnets, it's with DHCP clients, you must create multiple scope in addition to IP address. A scope can also assign official parameters to DHCP clients, including the IP address of DNS servers, WIM servers, and routing and so on. Before the creating scope, consider the following guidelines. The first one, if there are a multiple DHCP server on the network, each server requires at least one scope. If a workstation on the network requires a static IP address, it must be included from the scope. This eliminates the change of duplicate IP address. A DHCP server can be configured with a multiple scope. Scope information is not shared between DHCP servers. Make sure the IP address in its scope do not overlap again to eliminate the possibility of duplicated IP address. If a client reservation is configured, one of the DHCP server, it must be configured on all DHCP server from which the clients can list an IP address. Creating a simple is a relatively simple process that can be accomplished through the DHCP management console. Once you select the new scope option, a wizard prompts you for the required parameters. To create a new scope, perform the following step. Back to Server Manager and open Tools DHCP. Right-click IPv4 on the left panel and select New Scope. Click Next button, input name academics and description is IP address for networks device for the academics department for this scope. Input the IP address range for the list and the subnet must start IP address 20.20.1.20 and end IP address 20.20.1.30. Next, for the section exclude the specific IP address from the range set a previous section. Input the IP address range for the exclude and click button add. For this task, just skip. Input the list duration. For this task, 2 days for the clients can use and the IP address from this scope. Click button next. Input the default gateway of your network 20.20.1.1. Click add and then click button next. Input the domain name and DNS server of your network iet.edu. If your server is in an AD domain, it is set automatically. Make sure it's at the proceed next. Input Win server is okay. To keep empty here if you do not need it. Click button finish to complete configuration. On IPv4, right-click on reservation and then click New Reservation and then insert the reservation name, network printer, and IP address 20.20.29 and MAC address 00-1D-7E-E-D7-27 and then click Add and close. Now, the reservation for the network printer has been done. New DHCP scope has been created. Next, for the scope 2 IPv4 is the same as the previous scope 1. The first, right-click IPv4 on the left panel and select New Scope. After that, click Next button. Input name users and description is IP address for network device user department. For this scope, input the IP address range for the list and the subnet must start IP address 13.13.1.10 and the 13.13.1.20. Exclude the specific IP address from the range set in the previous section. Input the IP address range for the exclude and the click button add. But this task just ignore. Click button next. Input list duration for the task 3 days for the client can use and the IP address from this scope. Click next and select yes, I want to configure this option now. After that, click button next to input the domain name and the DNS server of your network. If your server is in AD domain, it is set automatically. Make sure it any proceed to next button. Input Win server is okay to keep empty here if you don't need, but this task just skip. Click button next to finish finish to complete configuration. And the final last, new DSP has been added. Next, to configure scope 3 IPv6, right-click IPv6 on the left panel and select New Scope. After that, click button Next to input name admin and description is IP address for the network device for admin department for this scope. Insert scope prefix 2011 DB8/64, then click Next. Insert scope list preference lifetimes 2 days and valid lifetimes 4 days. Then click Next to finish configuration and new DSP has been added. Confirm lists from the DHCP server just to make sure everything went well and we are receiving our IP from the DHCP server as configured. Let's us go over and confirm. Open your DHCP server manager in the server and check on the list's IPv4 and IPv6. ipconfig/all to client Windows 10. Next, for the part 10, analysis DHCP problem. DHCP server failure, a shortage of accessible IP addresses and network failure are all common causes of DHCP problems. However, the techniques for the troubleshooting differ based on the fault symptoms and sources. By centralizing address allocation setup, the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol or DHCP make administering IP addresses for network endpoint easier. Troubleshooting DHCP may be difficult and needs a fundamental understanding of the protocol as well as how networks works. Some frequent DHCP issues and how to address them are listed below. First one, in a corporate network, a centralized server based on DHCP server and endpoint broadcast its DHCP packets when it's required and IP address the requests are subsequently sent over the networks to the business DHCP servers by networking devices. To correctly handle requests and the answer networks device must have a necessary setting. Endpoint devices will be enabled to receive a valid address if everything is incorrectly set. Second, on a local network device, there is a DHCP server, small distant branches or in-home networks currently employ the second form of DHCP setting. The DHCP server is allocated on a local network device that links the sites to the internet, such as a wireless router. The benefits of this design is that the DHCP server is local to a site and can continue to function even if the business network goes down. User in their areas can now analyze for SaaS-based SaaS services. However, with the development of internet-enabled devices such as a PC, laptop, and digital assistant, as well as a mobile automation and IoT device, a local server basic setup which may only have a 50 or 100 addresses accessible might rapidly run out of addresses. The endpoint device is a network connection network equipment such as a router, switch, access point, and firewall. And the DHCP server itself makes DHCP troubleshoot difficult. A systematic approach, as with any network troubleshooting, is ideal gather information and run tests to see if a component is working or not. In rare cases, packet capture may be required to verify that the HACCP exchange are taking place or our identity identifier via the HACCP server. Next, for the conclusion, the belief the DNS is a critical component of our ability to traverse the web will be easy. If you are going to run a website, you will need to crack how it works because you will be dealing with regularly. Using the DNS, for example, is required for registering domains, referring them to a website, and moving them. These are all straightforward activities that you should be able to complete. After you have figured out how DNS works, you will need to learn a few more terminology, such as records are used to connect your domain name with an IP address CNAME. CNAME records, you can use these records to point domains to others URLs. MX records, these records allows you to receive email sent to your domain. The DNS server of your domain, registering or hosting provider are known as name servers. So this file is set on your name server and contains all your of DNS related information. TTL, times to life, this parameter control how frequently your DNS configure is updated. Networks manager may save money, effort, and makes their networks more durable and adaptable by analyzing dynamic address capabilities. The HACCP has evolved from a simple utility from assigned IP address to a link local interface to a comprehensive life networking tools that is essential from the upkeep of big networks. View a relay agents and the HACCP servers addresses can be allocated and they allocated anywhere in the world. The HACCP has evolved in lockstep with network designs and capabilities with providing network administrators with greater automation in address allocation and a scientifically faster universe of listens to nodes with IPv6. Multicast capabilities, the HACCP abilities to access several nodes and once will improve as well. It can be concluded from this that even though the HACCP is known and abilities protocol in networks management and is a vital part of the internet, it must continue to grow and evolve in order to survive with a changing and evolving world of networking.